What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video I want to talk to you about bugging out with a rifle and whether or not you should bug out with a rifle, and if you choose to bug out with a rifle, what type of rifles should you bug out with, and also under what circumstances should you bug out with a rifle, and which rifles are best for different scenarios, different terrain, different circumstances. So before I get into the specifics of rifles, I want to talk to you about why you might want to bug out with a rifle. So most people will tell you that you should bug out with some kind of firearm, and you should have at least a sidearm. So here I have a Glock 20 Gen 4. This is a 10mm pistol. It's a semi-automatic, and I have a Surefire 1000 lumen flashlight on it. I have night sights. I also have a threaded barrel, so I can attach a suppressor. So I can use this suppressed or unsuppressed, which is very important if you're bugging out. You may need to be quiet in certain situations. And I have it in a chest holster, because chest holsters, in my opinion, are the best type of holster, unless you're trying to conceal, because when you have your pistol on your chest, you can access it from any position, whether you're sitting, whether you're sleeping, whether you're hiking with a pack. So I recommend a pistol with a chest holster. You can either go with a revolver or you could go with a semi-automatic, whatever you choose. I personally prefer either a 10mm or a 44 Magnum or something like that, something with a little bit more punch. And the reason why you might want something a little bit bigger if you're bugging out than a 9mm is you just never know what situation you're going to be in, and having a little bit extra power and a little bit more penetration and a heavier bullet with a larger diameter might serve you well in certain situations, okay? So most people will say that you should have some kind of a handgun, all right? But I don't hear a lot of people talking about rifles. So why would you want to bug out with a rifle, and what are the pros and cons? Well, obviously a rifle is heavier than a pistol, okay? This pistol, fully loaded, is going to be 3 pounds at the most, okay? And spare magazines, it's not going to be very heavy. So that's a huge benefit to a pistol, is that it's very light. And if you're bugging out, you want to conserve your calories, okay? You don't want to have a super heavy load that you got to drag through the mountains or through a city, because it's going to slow you down, it's going to wear you out. And because you're going to be worn out and because you're going to be moving slower, you're going to be more of a target for somebody that's desperate or somebody who's just, you know, a criminal, okay? So you want to pack light, and the advantage to a handgun is that it's light. Now, the disadvantage to a handgun is that you're limited to close distances, okay? So a handgun is really only going to serve you well in situations where, you know, you're within 25 yards of a threat, maybe 50 yards. I know there's a lot of people out there that can shoot out to 100 yards with a handgun, but most people, even experienced shooters, are going to have a hard time actually making good hits at 100 yards. And the reason why is, with a handgun, you don't have a stock, okay? With a stock, you can rest your firearm against your shoulder, and that provides stability. Okay, with a handgun, there's no stability at all right? You're literally using your muscles in your arms to stabilize the firearm, and because of that, it's difficult, especially if you're tired, especially if you have an adrenaline rush, especially if you're physically active. It's not going to be easy to keep those sights steady. And also, most handgun sights are very large because they're designed for self-defense, and a self-defense handgun, you want those large sights so you can quickly acquire them and place them on your target, whatever threat you're dealing with. You want a nice big sight that's easy to acquire with your eyes, okay? And having a big sight like that is a drawback if we're talking about shooting at longer distances, because it covers up your target. And even if you have your handgun set up to where you have like a 6 o'clock hold where you're holding under the target, it's still difficult at long distances. So practically speaking, the max range of a handgun, even for an inexperienced shooter, we're talking 25 to 50 yards max, practically speaking. Okay, can you go out to 100 yards if you have a good rest, if you practice a lot? Sure, you can. But also at that distance, that handgun bullet is going to have a lot less energy and a lot less velocity. And so because of that, you're going to have reduced terminal performance, less penetration, less expansion, less energy transfer, okay? So handguns do have a drawback in that they're close range weapons, okay? They were never designed to be a primary weapon. Even though people today think of handguns as a primary weapon, they were never designed for that, okay? If you go back in history, a handgun was always designed to be a secondary weapon if your primary weapon fails or you don't have it on you for whatever reason, and your primary weapon should be some kind of a rifle, okay? And police officers carry handguns as a primary weapon simply because it's not practical for them to carry a rifle while they're on duty patrolling the streets. So they carry a pistol because it's just not practical, it alarms the public, and most of the situations they encounter are close range threats where a rifle is just simply not needed. So that's why police have a handgun as their primary weapon, but really a handgun was never meant to be a primary weapon. Okay, so what are the advantages of a rifle and what are the disadvantages? Well, obviously a rifle is going to be heavy. Even the lightest rifles are going to be at least 6 pounds, depending on what kind of optics you have and whether you have a heavy barrel or a sporter barrel. So you're talking 6 pounds at the very minimum, and in most situations you're talking about 8 to 12 pounds for most standard sporting rifles or even AR style rifles, okay? So 8 to 12 pounds, it's not a lot, but if you have to bug out 30, 40, 50 miles, even 20 miles, depending on the terrain, you know, if you're bugging out through hilly terrain with a lot of forests and, you know, rocky slopes that you have to go up and down, like here in Pennsylvania, it's all just hills, up and down, up and down. You know, the hills are not super tall, they're not, you know, the Rocky Mountains, but you got to go up and down, up and down, up and down, and that's going to wear you out because they're very steep, okay? And there's a lot of undergrowth, there's a lot of vegetation, there's, you know, just very thick woodlands. So that's something you have to consider, okay? The extra weight, that's going to wear you out, it's going to slow you down, and it's going to burn more calories, okay? 10 pounds is a significant amount of weight, especially if you're carrying it over a long distance, all right? So the longer the distance, the more a rifle is going to wear you out. If it's a shorter distance, 5-10 miles, you're not going to really notice it much unless you're really traversing some really steep and difficult terrain. But, you know, 10 pounds you won't really feel when we're talking about short distances. However, the advantage to a rifle is you have distance, okay? You can engage targets at hundreds of yards, even over 1,000 yards, depending on what kind of rifle you have and your skill level, okay? So that's a huge advantage in an SHTF situation because depending on what situation you're in, you might have to engage a threat beyond 50 yards. You know, there may be somebody trying to take you out from 100, 200, 300 yards away, and you know, if you just have a handgun, you're in a bad situation, you know? So having a rifle in that situation is a huge advantage, okay? Also, if you have to hunt to provide some food for yourself or other people, you know, having a rifle is critical, You know, it's very difficult to get close to any game animal, so you need that rifle with a good optic so you can take down a game animal from a long distance away. All right, so that's a huge advantage to a rifle in a bug out situation, is you can use it to hunt and supplement your calories. Obviously, you're going to have some calories in your bug out bag, but you may need to supplement those calories, okay? So the rifle's going to help you there. Also, rifles have more penetration, more energy transfer, more expansion. They have better terminal performance, okay? They do more damage. They have more power, okay? So comparing a handgun to a rifle is like comparing a sedan to a dually diesel pickup truck, okay? It's a huge difference in power. Even a light caliber rifle cartridge is going to have several times more energy than a 9mm or standard service caliber pistol cartridge. Okay, so more distance, more energy. If you need to hunt, huge advantage there. If somebody is trying to take you out from a long distance, you can easily defend yourself. So those are some big advantages, in my opinion. Okay, penetration, distance, huge advantage. Disadvantage, weight, obviously. Now, another thing to factor in with bugging out with a rifle is your terrain, okay? And also legality. You know, many states, many cities do not allow you to possess certain types of firearms. So, you know, if you live in New York City, it's probably going to be impossible for you to bug out with a rifle, or Chicago or something like that, LA. You know, you're not going to be able to bring your AR with you everywhere you go. But also terrain is important. You know, if you live in open farm country like you see behind me here, then having a rifle when you bug out is especially important, okay? Because obviously you have open terrain, so the chances of somebody out there with good optics and a good hunting rifle are high, and they could try to take you out for whatever reason. They want to get your supplies, you know. So if you're in open terrain, the necessity for a rifle is even more important. If you're in an urban environment, a rifle may not be that important because there's a lot of cover everywhere. There's a lot of concealment. Shot distances are very short, so in urban environment, it may not be as practical or as needed. And then again, with the legality and the gray man aspect and things like that, it may not be practical to bug out with a rifle for various reasons in a city, okay? So what type of rifles should you consider if you decide to bug out with a rifle? In my opinion, I think you should have a good quality bolt action rifle with a good quality scope and a suppressor if you can get one where you live, okay? In my opinion. And the reason for the suppressor is obvious. Number one, you're not going to go deaf. Number two, you're going to reduce your noise signature, so you're not going to alert everybody within 5 miles that you're there. And I've actually done long distance noise tests with suppressors, so if you want to check those out, I'll leave a link in the top right corner. I did a 1,000-yard noise test with a 300 Win Mag and a 308 and a 10mm. And at 1,000 yards, it doesn't really even sound like a firearm. You know, you could think that somebody's chopping wood with an axe. Versus without the suppressor, it's clear that it's a firearm. And it's much, much easier to pinpoint the location of where the noise is coming from. It's not diffused as well, okay? So it would be easier for someone to triangulate your position. Now, in addition to the bolt action rifle, you can also get yourself a lever action rifle. Those are very popular in a lot of states because with the lever action, it's very fast. I would say a lever action rifle is better in an urban environment. or in a situation where you have a lot of forest cover where the shots are going to be under 200 yards, a good quality lever action in 45-70 or something similar should be fine with, you know, bullets that have decent ballistic coefficients. And obviously an AR style rifle is a good option. The problem with an AR style rifle is that they're not as reliable as a bolt action rifle or even a lever action. And as much as I love AR style rifles, if I had to truly bug out and I could only take one firearm with me, it would not be any of my ARs. And the reason why is they're just not reliable enough. You know, you don't know what situation you're going to be in when you bug out. Okay, we're not talking about going to the range. We're not talking about going to the woods to hunt. If something fails, you better make sure you know how to fix it and you have the parts and the tools. Because when you're out there, you're not going to be able to just order stuff that you need. You're not going to be able to just turn a light on in your garage or basement and work for a couple hours to get something fixed. And because ARs are gas operated, gas is just not as reliable as anything manually operated, okay? Now, I have very reliable ARs. I had very few jams with my ARs, but still, all it takes is one jam, and that could be it, you know? And you have to think about bugging out. You're not going to war, okay? Okay, you're not raiding Osama bin Laden's compound, okay? Your mission is to lay low, keep a low profile, and only engage if necessary, and potentially hunt some game if you need to supplement your calories. So in that situation, a bolt action rifle or a lever action rifle is fine because you don't need that volume of fire, okay? You don't need dozens and dozens of rounds, okay? If you're hunting for deer, usually you shouldn't need more than 2 or 3 rounds. That's it, okay? And if you're in a situation where you have to defend yourself, your mission is to get away from the threat, not to engage it and, you know, try to be some kind of badass, okay? That's a one-way ticket to a very bad situation for yourself, okay? So, in my opinion, a manually operated rifle is superior for bugging out, okay? We're not talking about bugging in, okay? Bugging in, you definitely want to have ARs, because if a group of bad guys surround your house and all you have is a manually operated rifle, you're going to be at a big disadvantage. So that's where an AR will come into play, is for bugging in and for security if you're close to your bug in or if you're close to your bug out location, okay? If you already have a fixed position that you're trying to defend, that's where an AR style rifle is superior, because you have that volume, okay? Reliability is not a big concern in that situation because you're close to your fixed position, you're close to your home base. So if something fails, if you get a jam, you know, you can run into your house, get another AR, whatever, okay? But if you're actually bugging out, you don't know where you're going tomorrow, you don't know what the terrain is going to be, you want something that's reliable, and volume is just not that important. So let me show you guys now my bug out rifles and talk to you about the features that you want in a bug out rifle. So here we have a Ruger M77 Hawkeye Alaskan. This is a 20-inch barrel 300 Win Mag, okay? And I have it suppressed, and what I like about this rifle is that it has a 20-inch barrel. Okay, a lot of people would say, oh, a 20-inch barrel for a 300 Win Mag, that's stupid. Well, with hand loads, I can easily get 3,000 feet per second with a 180 grain bullet out of this 20-inch barrel, which is better than a 30-06, okay? So you don't want to have a rifle that has a tremendously long barrel, especially if you're going to suppress it, because the suppressor is going to add an extra 6 to 8 inches depending on the length of your suppressor. Okay, so my suppressor is 6 inches long, the one I have on this, And with the 20-inch barrel, it's already out to 26, 27 inches with the suppressor. Okay, if I had a 26-inch barrel rifle, and then I put a 6 or 7 or 8-inch long suppressor on there, you know, you're talking about 32 to 34 inches. Okay, that is extremely long, and it's just not practical to carry. And, you know, yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of energy and a little bit of velocity, but practically speaking, it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so barrel length, you want to have a moderate length barrel. You don't want anything too short or too long. In my opinion, 16 to 22 inches is the best for a bug out rifle as far as barrel length goes, and that obviously depends on the cartridge. Okay, this is a 300 Win Mag. I wouldn't want to have a 16 or 18 inch barrel 300 Win Mag because I'm going to really lose a lot of velocity. But 20 inches is probably the lowest I would ever go with a 300 Win Mag. But if we're talking about like a 308 or something like that, or a 5.56, you could go down more, 16 inches or even shorter, that's fine. But one thing you'll notice is that I have an optic on here. Okay, this optic goes up to 15 power, and I've taken this rifle out to 1,000 yards dozens of times. I can hit a 4 to 5 inch group at 1,000 yards with factory ammo any day of the week, as long as it's not too windy. Okay, so you want a good optic. You want to be able to zoom, so you want a good quality optic. Okay, you don't want anything cheap, and you want to have a good magnification on it. Another thing I have here is a bipod. That's not super critical, it's just something extra that helps. I have a sling, a good quality sling. And another thing that a lot of guys overlook with bolt action rifles is your iron sights. Okay, this rifle has iron sights. That's important for bugging out. Why? Because if something happens to your scope, if you don't have iron sights, you're in a bad situation. You know, you're not going to be able to hit anything past 25 yards if all you have is just a plain barrel. Okay, so try to find a rifle with iron sights on it. Okay, any rifle for bugging out should have iron sights. Whether it's an AR, whether it's a bolt, a lever action, whatever, you should have iron sights because optics can break. I actually had an optic fail on me recently. I had a lens crack in a scope that was mounted on a dangerous game rifle. Good thing I wasn't hunting lion or buffalo with that rifle, and good thing I had backup iron sights with quick detach rings so I could remove that scope if necessary. So you want to have those iron sights, and in addition to the iron sights, you also want to have quick detach rings. Okay, so you can get that scope off in the field. And when I say quick detach rings, you don't necessarily need the ones that have like throw levers. I mean something that you can remove in the field with simple tools like the back edge of a knife or a flathead screwdriver. Okay, now as far as brands go, I personally like the Ruger M77 rifles. I have several of them, and they're very reliable and they're very accurate. They make barrels that are hammer forged, and hammer forged barrels, although they're not as accurate, they're still very accurate and they last very long. Okay, they're more tolerant of abuse than cut rifle barrels or match grade barrels. Okay, so I like the Ruger M77 because they use a Mauser style extractor claw on the bolt. Okay, so that guarantees reliable extraction no matter what. Okay, if you're using like a Remington 700 or a Bergara rifle, your extraction and ejection is reliant upon a plunger. Okay, and the plunger uses a spring. That spring can rust and fail. If you're in a bug out situation, that's not a thing that you want to have happen to you. Okay, you want to have a Mauser style bolt, in my opinion. And unfortunately, there's not many companies out there that make Mauser style rifles anymore. You have Ruger, the M77, and then you have Winchester with the Model 70, and then you also have Kimber. Kimber makes Mauser style bolt action rifles. So any of those three companies will make good quality rifles. You also have custom rifles like Montana Rifle Company. Before they went out of business, they have the M1999 receiver, the CZ550s, which are discontinued. If you can find those are great rifles. But for current production, if you want to have a warranty and you want something that's produced recently, look into the Ruger M77s, Winchester Model 70s, and the Kimbers, okay? Extraction is critical. Extraction and ejection is critical, especially in a bug out situation, okay? So iron sights, scope with rings or some kind of mounting system that you can easily remove in the field. It doesn't necessarily have to be quick detach, but you don't want to have like a screw on your rings that requires some special bit like a Torx head or something like that. You want some kind of ring or mounting system that you can use simple tools that you could find anywhere to take it off, okay? And suppressor is ideal if you can get one, all right? Now, moving on from the bolt action rifle, we have a 4570 Marlin 1895. This is a great option for an urban prepper, a suburban prepper, or if you live in a very forested area where you expect shots to be close range, okay? Even though it fires heavy bullets, you can get factory ammo that has high ballistics coefficient bullets, and you could easily hit 200-300 yards all day long. And 200 or 300 yards is plenty for most situations, okay? And nowadays you can actually also get these M-LOK foreends. I have a Midwest Industries M-LOK forend on this one. So I'm in the process of attaching some Picatinny rails on this so I can mount a light, and I could even mount a bipod if I choose, or whatever accessories you want. And it still looks pretty decent. And I'm going to be doing a full review of this forend and the rifle. But one thing you'll notice is I have a forward mounted scope on this one, and this comes from Jeff Cooper. Jeff Cooper came up with the Scout concept, okay, the Scout rifle, where you have a forward mounted scope. And the forward mounted scope, although you have a smaller sight picture because you're literally looking through like a tube, so you don't have that big field of view, okay? You're not going to see a large area through the scope, but for close distances, you don't need that. You need something that you can acquire quickly. So with a forward mounted scope, you throw the rifle up and you don't have to look through the scope to align the scope properly and find your target. What you do is you focus on the target, and then you bring the rifle up, you look at the target, and it's almost like using an aim point or some kind of red dot. You keep your focus on the target, both eyes open, and you bring the rifle up, and it just naturally comes right up to where you're looking at, and then you just align your crosshairs with the target. It's just much easier than having it mounted to the rear. So if you could forward mount the scope on your lever action rifle, that's going to increase your effectiveness. So this is another option, especially if you live in a state that's very restrictive and you're limited to manually operated firearms and you want to have some volume. This will give you volume. I can hold 8 rounds in the magazine tube here, plus 1 in the chamber, versus the bolt action rifle I can hold 4 or 5 depending on the manufacturer. Okay, so this is another option. And then finally we have the very popular AR style rifle, and this one is chambered in .308. It has a 16-inch barrel, and I have a collapsible stock. The collapsible stock is very useful in a bug out situation because you can collapse the stock all the way in, and it makes it easier to carry. It makes it easier to stow away. If you have a special backpack used for carrying a rifle, having the ability to collapse your stock is just very useful. Also for close quarters situations, collapsing the stock is easier. If you have to maneuver in tight spaces, having the stock collapsed is going to be easier than you have it all the way out. So collapsible stock if it's legal. I have a scope on here. This is set up to be more of a DMR style rifle. And I also have iron sights on this. I also have iron sights on the 4570, by the way. I have flip-up iron sights with tritium vials in them. And obviously it's suppressed. And, you know, an AR style rifle is a good choice. I personally prefer a manually operated if I'm bugging out for reliability, simply because I'm just afraid that something could go wrong with this. And I have had situations where I have had jams, you know, at the range or in the field, and good thing I could just go home and clear the jam. You know, especially if you're running these suppressed, you're going to run into more issues with an AR style rifle if you're running them suppressed. And the reason why is that the gas goes back into the receiver, into the chamber, and sometimes that gas can clog things up. You know, the carbon and the fouling builds up a lot more in the chamber area and in the receiver when you run AR rifles suppressed. With a bolt or a lever gun, if you're running them suppressed, you don't have that issue as with an AR style rifle. So that's something to consider. You're going to have more failures with an AR style rifle that's suppressed versus unsuppressed. And in general, it's less reliable than a manually operated firearm, okay? So, and I also have a flashlight on here. This flashlight can go red or white. So I use red if, in most situations I use red because red preserves your night vision. It also reduces your signature. White light I only use if it's like an emergency situation. You know, if you really need to light something up, if you're actually engaging a threat, that's when you would use the white light. So that's my thoughts on the actual rifles. And let me just show you guys an option if you do choose to bug out with a rifle. I want to show you guys an option for carrying these. Now, I didn't talk about slings. There's all different kinds of slings. You can get special slings that allow you to throw the rifle on your back and carry it like a backpack. There's just all kinds of innovative slings out there. I personally prefer just a basic 2-point sling on my AR. And also on my bolt action, my lever action, just a basic 2-point sling. But an option for you guys, if you do choose to bug out with a rifle, is to get yourself a rifle carrying pack. So this isn't a burly stock pack. This is the Gun Runner. And I highly recommend this pack if you're going to be bugging out with a rifle, because this is a small pack. It's made to be more of like a 1 to 3 day pack, which is really all you need if you're bugging out. You don't want to have a massive pack with a lot of crap, but this is really small, lightweight, and you can fit a bolt action or a lever action rifle in here with a suppressor. It's not going to be able to take a AR style rifle because the opening is too narrow here. So you're not going to be able to fit an AR style rifle with the pistol grip and the magazine. So this is a great option. I'll show you guys in a minute how it looks with the rifle in there. And being able to put your rifle on your back is going to save you a lot of energy. And it's going to make it a lot easier to bug out with the rifle, is to be able to put it on your back in a backpack like this, a high quality backpack. You don't want something cheap, okay? Because if you're bugging out, your life depends on your gear. So you want to have good quality gear. You don't want crap. So it's worth it to save your money and get something good. If you have to wait a little bit longer, save up a couple of paychecks, whatever, set some money aside, do it, because you don't want something that's going to fail. Now, another option, if you do plan to bug out with an AR style rifle, here's another, a burly stock pack. And this is the Euro pack. And this one is a little bit wider here. This is the slot that you put your rifle in. So it's wider. You can fit an AR style rifle in here. And what I like about the burly stock packs is they have an adjustable shoulder harness here. So you can adjust your shoulder straps based on your torso length, which is very important because a lot of these bug out bags and tactical packs, you can't adjust your torso length on your pack, and that makes a huge difference. If you're bugging out long distances, you need to have a pack that fits you well. All right, everybody has different torso lengths, and you can't have a one-size-fits-all backpack. You know, you need something that you can adjust to fit you. They have really good padded hip belts, which is important for the weight transfer onto your hips. So highly recommend the Burley Stock packs. This is the Euro, and then the Gun Runner is the other one for bolt actions. And you know, they're pretty affordable. They run about $200 now. They were a little bit cheaper when I got them. They were like $150. You know, everything's getting more expensive now, but let me show you guys what these packs look like with the rifles in them. And I just want to mention, I'm not sponsored by a Burley Stock. I'm just sharing good gear with you. All right, guys, so I got the Euro pack on, and I got my AR in the back. And I know that this pack fits me well because it literally feels like I'm not carrying anything on my back at all. Feels like I'm carrying an empty backpack, and that's how you know that you have a good pack that's good quality, has good padding, has a good hip belt, and that you have it adjusted properly to fit your torso. Okay, this is very light. I feel like I could run a mile. Okay, now a Burley Stock does make like a cover to cover the stock. You see how the stock is sticking out? They have a cover that you can put over the stock, okay, the butt stock. I don't have it on now because I'm just making a video to show you guys, but excellent pack, feels comfortable. Let me show you the other one, the Gun Runner, and I'm going to be doing full reviews of these packs very soon, so stay tuned to my channel for reviews of this pack and the other one, a more detailed review. Now, you may have to remove your magazine for your AR to fit, okay? So I removed my magazine, which is fine, because if I'm in a situation where my rifle is in my pack, it's probably not an emergency situation anyway. So I can just stop, take the pack off, pull the rifle out, and put the magazine back in. Okay, so not a big deal. So let me show you the other one now. All right, guys, so I got the Gun Runner pack on. Let me show you what it looks like. So it is comfortable. The only thing is, because I have the suppressor on, it's hard for me to stick the rifle real deep into the sleeve. So more of the buttstock sticks out. You can see the pistol grip sticks out. So that's the only negative with this pack, but it is a lot smaller. So if you need a pack that's smaller and more compact and you want to be able to carry a rifle in it, this pack is definitely a good option for you, okay? It's definitely comfortable. The weight is distributed nicely. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I hope you found this video useful. If you want to see more bugging out videos, check out my bugging out playlist. I'll leave a link in the top right corner. If you want to see more videos on bug out bags, I'll leave a link to my bug out bags playlist, and I will be doing a full review of these packs. So Stay tuned for that. Otherwise, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.